This is the 4 agreements, and this is Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of this amazing book on achieving personal freedom. My 6-word summary for this book is live every day as you please. To show us how to do that, today we'll be talking about 3 key insights from the book, starting with number 1, how we form these limiting beliefs in the first place. Number 2, the 4 agreements we can adopt to take back control over our lives. And finally, the Toltec system of breaking old agreements. You're gonna love it. Let's jump right in. We all came into this world as children, and we came with tabula rasa, which means that we didn't have any mental concepts as at the time that we were born. So as children, we didn't really have so much options in the first place of choosing things like our nationality, our beliefs, our religion, or even our names. These are things that were given to us and we accepted. As a child, we didn't really know so much, and so we believed everything that adults say. Although these adults might be having fears or insecurities or doubts, whatever they tell us is possible, we believe. And whatever they tell us isn't possible, we also believe. So we surrender to their beliefs with our agreement. So this is how domestication happened, with a system of reward and punishment. When we did good things, we were told, you're a good boy, you're a good girl. But then when we did bad things, we were told, you're a bad boy, you're a bad girl. We like the reward, and then we don't like the punishment. So we did more of the good things that would get us the reward, not knowing that we're also learning how to please people in the process. But then at some point in life, we no longer need anyone to domesticate us. This is how Miguel puts it. The domestication is so strong that at a certain point in our lives, we no longer need anyone to domesticate us. We don't need mom or dad, the school or the church to domesticate us. We are so well trained that we are our own domesticators. We are an auto-domesticated animal. He also says that the accumulation of these beliefs forms a book of law that rules our minds. Now, this book of law is our truth. It's a definition of what is good and what is bad. For example, in my book of law, one of the things that is good is being kind to others. And one of the things that is bad is sleeping too much. Now, I might be wrong, but these are the truths that I've come to adopt over time. Now, Miguel also says that there's an inner judge in every single one of us that judges everything and everybody. And this inner judge uses what is in our book of law to judge our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. When we do something that goes against the book of law, for example, if I lie to a friend because I want to save my head, the inner judge says I'm guilty. I should be ashamed of myself. I deserve to be punished. And then the part of us that receives this blame and judgment is called the victim. Miguel defines the victim as the part of us that says, poor me, I'm not good enough, I'm not intelligent enough, I'm not attractive enough, I'm not worthy of love. Poor me. The judge usually agrees with the victim. After all, it's the judge that gave the verdict in the first place. These beliefs are so strong that years after learning new concepts and trying to make our own decisions, they still rule us. Like one limiting belief I had, which I'm still working on, is public speaking. Initially, when I got like new information on public speaking being good and I need to be confident, there's nothing to be scared of, then I started taking action. And I noticed that whenever I'm speaking in public, my leg will be vibrating because the emotion of fear has been attached to that belief in my book of law. So we have made so many agreements with our families, our friends, our workplace, our siblings, but the most important agreements are the ones that we make with ourselves. Miguel says that in these agreements, you tell yourself who you are, what you feel, what you believe, and how to behave. The result is what you call your personality. So if an agreement I have with myself is that I'm a healthy person, I'm more likely to eat healthier, take less junk food, exercise, sleep well. So our limiting beliefs, which are agreements that come with fear, usually require a lot of energy to maintain. And if it was only one limiting belief, then that won't be so much of a problem. But the thing is that we usually have so many, and so we dissipate so much of our personal energy in maintaining these agreements that are not good for our life. At the end of the day, we feel powerless and we just have enough strength to get by that day. So now it's time to talk about the 4 agreements which we can adopt to give us personal energy that we can use to change our old agreements. The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Now, Miguel says that this is the most important agreement. Why? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because your word is your power to create. Now, God created the world with his word, and we are made in the image of God. So it's with our words that we also create. We must have experienced the power of our words when we said things like, I don't feel well, I feel sick, I'm not feeling all right. Now, although at that time we might just have been experiencing symptoms, but because we used our words in that way, that reality was created. It was still with words that one man manipulated a whole country of intelligent people into a world war. Words are powerful. Now let's look at impeccability. What does that mean? And according to the book, impeccability means without sin. Im means without, and peccable is from the Latin word peccatus, which means sin. So combining that together, impeccable means without sin. He also says that a sin is anything that you do that goes against yourself. You go against yourself when you judge or blame yourself for anything. Even Jesus said that he didn't come to the world to judge the world, but that the world might be saved through him. He also said that we should judge not, so that we won't be judged. For example, if I'm going along the street and I call someone stupid, that's me using that word against myself. Why? Because he will hate me for that statement, and that is not good for me. So Miguel says being impeccable is not going against yourself. When you're impeccable, you take responsibility for your actions, but you don't judge or blame yourself. So if you weren't as kind as you wanted to be today, you don't blame yourself by saying, no, I'm a bad person, I'm not good, I don't have a good heart, I'll never be better. Those kind of belittling statements. You take responsibility by saying something like, I wasn't as kind as I should be today, I'll do better tomorrow. So our words should build people up and not tear them down. We shouldn't use our words to put a spell on people. That's to limit how much they can express themselves. Because if I tell a friend of mine that looks up to me in high esteem that you are not a good writer, whenever that person wants to write, they will remember that and it could cripple them from actually writing. So we should use our words to share love. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. Whenever people do or say something to us and we agree with them, it means that we took it personally. Miguel explained the root cause where this actually comes from. He said personal importance or taking things personally is the maximum expression of selfishness, because we make the assumption that everything is about me. There's this spotlight effect that we have where as we are walking on the streets, we feel that everyone is looking at us, that people are watching our every move, when the opposite is actually true. Everybody is concerned about themselves. The truth though is that nothing that anyone says is about you, but about themselves. So for example, if I get someone a birthday gift that they actually love, they could be like, Nzube, you are the best, you have a wonderful heart, thank you so much. But then if the same person is mad at me, they'll say something like, Nzube, you are the worst, how could you do something like that? You can see that those two responses from the same person are more based on how they feel at that time and not based on how I am. So we shouldn't take praise or criticisms personally. So we need to be confident in who we are, so that we don't go about seeking external validation and living a life that pleases others while losing ourselves in the process. This is how Miguel says it. Whatever people do, feel, think, or say, don't take it personally. If they tell you how wonderful you are, they are not saying that because of you. You know you are wonderful. It's not necessary to believe other people who tell you that you are wonderful. Don't take anything personally. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. Now, one interesting thing about our intellect is that it always wants a reason for everything. Now, even when we don't know what it is, it makes one up and then we believe it as the truth, and that is now an assumption. This is how Miguel writes it in the book. It's very interesting how the human mind works. We have the need to justify everything, to explain and understand everything in order to feel safe. It's not important if the answer is correct, just the answer itself makes us feel safe. This is why we make assumptions. So for example, one morning a friend of yours that both of you usually greet doesn't greet you, and then you assume that this person is mad at me or this person no longer likes me. Of course, those things sound logical. And then with time, resentment begins to build in your heart and you begin to gossip around with these assumptions, and you see how a cycle of drama begins. Miguel talked about how it works in relationships. Now, making assumptions in our relationships is really asking for problems. Often, we make the assumption that our partners know what we think and that we don't have to say what we want. We assume they're going to do what we want because they know us so well. If they don't do what we assume they should do, we feel so hurt and say, you should have known. So what's the solution then? Instead of making assumptions, we should ask questions. We need to have the courage to ask questions about things that we don't understand. We have to keep asking questions till we get enough clarity on that issue. When we hear the answers, there's no need to make assumptions again because we have the truth. It actually takes courage to ask because we fear rejection. but the more and more we do it, the easier it becomes. The fourth agreement is always do your best. This is the agreement that ties all the other three together till they become habits. And the core of it is that at every given moment, we should do our best. Now, our best could change from time to time. Now, early in the morning, the best you can do at that time would be different from the best that you can do when you are tired at night. The best that you can do when you're feeling healthy will be different from when you are sick. But then at every moment in time, we should do our best. One of the benefits of doing our best is that it frees us from guilt and shame. So this is how Miguel says it. When you do your best, you don't give the judge the opportunity to find you guilty or to blame you. If you have done your best and the judge tries to judge you according to your book of laws, you've got the answer. I did my best. Now, doing our best is doing actions because we love it and not because of the reward that is tied to it. It just makes common sense that if you have a task that you get $100,000 from, you won't do it as well as you do one that you only get $100 from. So we need to continually do our best, practicing this agreement over and over again until they become second nature. This is how Miguel says it. The first three agreements will only work if you do your best. Don't expect that you will always be able to be impeccable with your word. Your routine habits are too strong and firmly rooted in your mind, but you can do your best. Don't expect that you will never take anything personally. Just do your best. Don't expect that you will never make another assumption, but you can certainly do your best. Now that we know the four agreements which we use to build back our personal energy, let's now learn the system of breaking off limiting beliefs. This entire book is based on the wisdom of the Toltecs. Now, who are the Toltecs? Well, I'm glad you asked. Thousands of years ago, the Toltecs were known throughout southern Mexico as women and men of knowledge. Anthropologists have spoken of the Toltecs as a nation or a race. But in fact, the Toltecs were scientists and artists who formed a society to explore and conserve the spiritual knowledge and practices of the ancient ones. So with all these things we've explored today, of a truth, I can say these Toltecs were really wise. Now, the Toltecs call these limiting beliefs parasites because as parasites behave, they are in our minds, feeding off our energy, but they are not benefiting us in any way. Instead, they are taken from us. So if we want to be free, there are three ways we can destroy the parasites. Number one, we attack them head by head. That means we face our fears one by one. Now, this is a slow process, but it works. So we need to take our time to reflect on our lives, on our past, to think about what are the limiting beliefs, all the limiting beliefs that I have. And then we write them down. Then the next thing is that we'll have to use the power of our will, which we've gotten from practicing the four agreements, to break them off one after the other. Starting with something small is like, for example, in public speaking, you can start by recording yourself and posting your video online before you now build up to speaking live in front of an audience of 5,000 people. The second way to destroy the parasites is that we can stop feeding them so they die of starvation. Now, this requires us to gain control of our emotions and not act the way we feel. So to start off, we have to forgive first of all. So this is how Miguel says it. First, we need to forgive our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, and God. Once you forgive God, you can finally forgive yourself. And once you forgive yourself, the self-rejection in your mind is over. Thinking about it, if we don't love ourselves and we're not happy with the way we were made, who are we really angry with? Is the person that made us. So we have to forgive God so that we can forgive ourselves and love ourselves. After you forgive, with time you gradually gain back control over your emotions. Having control over our emotions means we've learned how to hold them and express them at just the right moment, never before or after. The third way to destroy the parasite is the initiation of the dead. Now, this is a form of symbolic death that kills the parasite but doesn't harm your physical body. Now, it sounds strange, but it's the fastest of the three methods and it requires courage. God forbid, but if you knew that the next 72 hours were going to be your last, how would you live? Would you care about what people say? Would you live your life bothering about what people think about you? I don't think so. I think you would be yourself and you will do the things that you've always wanted to do. So that's what initiation of the dead is all about. You are beginning every day with the consciousness that it might be your last. One of the greatest entrepreneurs that has ever lived and has changed our world in a tremendous way is Steve Jobs. This is the way he lived his life and what he advises people to do.
And since then, for the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today?
I believe that there is a unique expression that only your life can add to this world. We need to express our divinity by being alive and loving ourselves and others. And that's all I leave for this video. A great book I highly recommend you read. If you get it using the link in the description below, you also be supporting this channel as well. Give this video a like if you actually liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you in the next book.